This is Ryan from xcannabis.com, and it's the 9th of November 2014. I've had my life flash before my eyes a few times in the last couple of years, and it's made me really deeply reflect on faith and personal relationships and the future and legacy, the hereafter, all those topics. But, when I think about my path in life, I had a lot of different things before I had any Christianity that I believed in. I believed in, skateboarding. From the very early age of 8, I loved skateboarding. It was more of a religion or a spiritual, edification than anything that I had participated in. And I was raised in the Mormon church by a guy who was a very heavy drinker, had a long record of drinking, arrests and whatnot, but was a staunch believer in Mormonism, even though he didn't practice it. And then he later on got married in the temple to my mother, and they practice it, very seriously. And we had a parting of ways, and I haven't talked to my mom in years, many years. And that's how religion goes. But, I told a guy today, and I've said this over the years, at archive.org you can see a lot of my old websites, behindZionCurtain.com, UtahPirateRadio.com. I don't own UtahPirateRadio.com anymore, and Behind Zion Curtain is currently not active, but it is available at archive.org, like 12 years of that website. And all of my thoughts and pains and realities that I've posted about, and I was pretty open. I lost my brother, my 16-year-old brother, in 2002 to suicide, and so I had a lot of deep reflection that I put on there, and personal social issues, private issues, sometimes, very rarely, and political issues, of course, philosophies that I put on there. And there's thousands of pages of posts. We had a forum on there with like 400 members, and lots of posts and stuff that we went back and forth and had lots of little debates and arguments about. There's 12 years of it there. And, I've given up on any kind of religion. After I left Mormonism for good and got my name officially removed from the Mormon records, I did a lot of soul searching. I feel, close to Christ. I mean, I feel his teachings are edifying and rewarding, but at the same time, after I left Mormonism, I never denounced my belief in cannabis or any of that. And when I met my wife in 2002, just like 2 years after I gave my life to Christ, we were smoking weed together, and I wasn't smoking when I met her, but she smoked me out and I was good with it. And I've always been a cannabis activist, so I'm not into pleasing people. I don't kiss people's boots or anything. My belief in Christianity has to do with, science that I've studied and what I've had as a experience with the teachings of Christ, and, the lessons that I've learned, that I learned through a walk with Christ, watching people in ministries, soup kitchens. I was homeless for 3 years, watched people feed me and others with no pay, just the gratification of being able to help somebody and love somebody. And, displaying that agape love, my grandma Penny, my friend Paul, my friend Nate, just to name a few, Dennis, a cup of cool water in Spokane, New Horizons up in Seattle, River Street Shelter in Santa Cruz. I mean, just people who were, disciples of Christ, people like me. They weren't perfect. They weren't claiming to be. They were just disciples. They were, and I explained it to my friend today. That's what I was getting at, is this guy that I was having a conversation with, Tyler, here on Facebook. Anyway, he's talking about, well, gosh, isn't isn't disease and birth defects evidence that evolution exists, but that God does not? And this and that. Why wouldn't God fix if somebody or something that was so, painful and disadvantaged, like a birth defect or a disease? Why wouldn't God just come and fix that? And I, tried to explain to him what sin has done to the world. We, as Christians, we believe that this is a fallen world. He was looking for responses from Christians, so I thought, as a disciple of Christ, I would answer, and that sin has corrupted the natural order of things. And he's like, well, couldn't God just fix that if he wanted? And I was like, well, if he wanted us to be autonotrons, I think it's possible. I don't think it's his intention. I think he gave us free will, and with that it came consequences, but we had freedom, which is what a lot of us are into. And to think that God would control us like autonotrons, I would think personally that would just be anti-freedom. Doesn't freedom mean agency? And isn't freedom a divine quality? I don't know. And I told him that I don't know. I don't know what God is, who he is, what his intention is. Is he able to completely control every situation? Or, some people believe God is an alien, or gods are aliens. And we were planted here from some dying race. And some people confuse the term God for the word alien and vice versa. So, we really don't know. We have, religious writings that we believe tell us. And like I've read the Gnostic writings, I've read the Bible, and I see differences. And I've read, the Book of Mormon, and I've read the Bhagavad Gita, and I've read a lot of things. And I see that there's so many coincidences, there's so many parallels. And then I also see things that are like cultural impressions and cultural, leanings that wouldn't be taught in the same context today because the culture is different. So they've incorporated their culture into the writings, not just the message. So it's beyond the message. There's also, cultural and social etiquette and whatnot in these writings. The Gnostics later were considered heretics, but the Gnostic writings that they found in the Nagamati caves in 1947, these things, they believe, predate the manuscripts that the Catholics used in the Nicene Creed to compile the Bible. They believe these manuscripts from the Gnostics are from like 80 AD up to 200 AD, but that the manuscripts that was compiled for the Bible were older than that. So these Gnostic writings are fascinating. You can find them at earlychristianwritings.com. But no, I've seen so much, competition, human competition. I don't dig on religion, and I'm just not a big participant in it. I am a disciple. I learned from Christ. I feel like he had good teachings. I feel like his, impression on the world was in a positive way, and it inspired people in positive ways. And he was very matter of fact on his, his message, his beliefs, even countering the religions that were established in that day, and him finding himself in trouble with those religions. He stood fast on what was true, what he believed was true. And, he impressed the world so greatly by giving the ultimate sacrifice. I think everybody's in awe of that know of it. Maybe it happened the way they said in the writings, maybe it didn't, but, that somebody would give so much. And I think that, it does, it touches people's heart that this guy would, live to teach and die to live. And he would illustrate his love for us through that painful death on the cross, that somebody would love us so much. I don't think that all Christians believe that just because they believe that story, that they believe that they are somehow superior. I don't believe all Christians think that way. I know I don't think that way. If you go to archive.org, you can look up old websites, and you can kind of see where I've came from in my walk with Christ. My website is behindzioncurtain.com, behindzioncurtain.com. And I still own the website. I just don't have that website currently hosted on a server right now. So you'd have to look at the archives at archive.org, and you can kind of see my story. And I've always fessed up. Even behind, the, computer screen where I didn't have to interface with people and I was just typing online my story, I was very honest. And, I was critical of myself. And I did grow up hard, and I did make mistakes, and I admit to those mistakes. I get a lot of people constantly using my past on me. Like, hey, when you were a teenager, you were like this. And, I have to remind them, when I was a teenager, I was 15 years old and paying my own fucking rent. And that's a matter of the fact. You can look at my Social Security record, and when I started paying Social Security, I was 14 years old digging ditches for Mapleton Irrigation. I mean, I have tax returns proving that. I was busting my ass, and I had to get the fuck out of my parents' house. And so, yeah, I did. I was a crass, fucking angry person. And people remember that of me, and they remind me of that. Well, hey, when you were 15, you were like this. Hey, when you were 16, you were a fuckhead. Yeah, well, most people were when they were that age. I just had extenuating circumstances that made me a little bit more testy, a little bit more sensitive. And so, yeah, I did time in jail for cannabis. I got in a lot of fights. I still got scars. You can see. It's been busted open here, my nose here. I had a whole bunch of stitches. My whole face was busted open several times. I've been stabbed in the finger. My head's all damaged all the way around from, lots of different occasions of things. But, I grew up fast and hard. I have some regrets. I miss my family, my immediate family, but our relationship will never be the same because of religion, mostly. And, how people have to play, perfect in these religions. And I love when they divert these things on me, and they're like, oh, well, you live in the past. Why you live in the past? Quit, talking about the past. And I get that, but, when I see their stories online, they're talking about the past. And I see them writing these stories, and they have for years. And I hear the bullshit, and it's just that way of character assassination. And you look it up. You look up blood atonement. You look up the things from these Mormon, eras in history, and they're very, very tough on apostates. But I believe I did the good thing. I believe I did the right thing. I believe, standing alone, standing on my own knowledge and wisdom and my own experience, and not depending on a religion, is the way I was meant to be. But I won't deny that I believe that there's some truth to Christ and his message. I believe that, and I always will. And even if it causes me problems, and it has. I mean, you can look at that website, go to archive.org and look up my website, behindzioncurtain.com. It's caused me a lot of problems. There's thousands of posts there back and forth, people even threatening me because they didn't believe, the same way I believed, and we disagreed, and I had people threatening me on these websites. Mormons that I've never even met. I had no idea who they were. They didn't know who I was. They were, threatening to track me down because of my beliefs. And it's all documented. It's on there. There's a lot of it. There's thousands of posts. I mean, crazy. It was nuts for a while. It was nuts for a couple of years. 2005 through 2007, I believe, mostly. And, I was in a Utah family. I was in Utah County, where it's like 90% Mormons or 86% Mormons. And, they do have a violent history. And I still, stood strong on my beliefs against the church about things like the Mountain Meadows Massacre and the blood atonement and the polygamy and, the young children and stuff. And all of that was tough. And I faced backlash. So I don't do stuff just to please people. And when people treat me like I'm just every average Christian that I've never really studied my religion, I wonder, what do they know about it? And when they prove they don't know anything about it, it disappoints me. Like, if they're going to criticize me, at least you should know something more than I do. But if you don't, why are you even criticizing me? Anyway, whatever.